This time on Grenade Motorsports, we rip the Hemi engine and trans out of this thing. We stuff it into a 1952 Dodge pickup truck. We build a custom header and full exhaust for a 351 Windsor. And this lowered F100 moves under its own power for the first time in 20 years. Let's go! It's time to go.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here. I want to introduce you to this truck in case you don't know about it. We drug it out of a barn. It's a 79 F100. I put a Crown Vic chassis under it, a 351 Windsor from a 1985 F150. I went through the thing, freshened it up, and got it running. And this, of course, wasn't without its challenges. And as a matter of fact, there's a whole lot more going on. So let's dig into how we got here and what's up next. It's a good thing you guys don't have smell-o-vision, because underneath here, yeah, it's pretty cool. But these covers over here, they're heat shields. You can smell like mouse piss underneath them because I didn't take them down, and I know that's what's in there. But anyway, we have, so the seal's a little crappy right there. Looks like the drive shaft might be a little short. Yeah. Anyway, but the main thing was getting that hooked up. I'm glad that's hooked up. We'll set it on the ground and it should change. It should actually move forward a little. But let me get those bolts tight. I'd like to get this place, condensed. So put the bed back on here so I can move the whole truck around as a unit, which that's really what I'm after. But what'll make it easier is if I run this brake line and the fuel line to the front. If I do that, then I can put the bed on and then I can condense my space because I need to get the Dodge in here. So another thing is I have a bunch of parts in the house, which, don't worry, I'm not cleaning cylinder heads in the dishwasher again. But this carpet's been down there, and I'm gonna just lay it out in here. I'm not putting it in proper because I still have a ton of wiring. There's two tiny little weld patches, and I mean tiny little weld. So I'm gonna put this in. It'll help lay it flat over the next month while I'm dealing with all of these other items. So I have this. It's an adapter that's got a double D steering shaft on it and also a Ford triangle, they call it, because that steering shaft down there is a goofy triangle. So let's see if it fits. Doesn't look like it. Shit. That isn't good. It's too small. Oh, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. It just needs to be cleaned up. It's just a tight tolerance. It'll go. A little bit of hammering, clean up the outer portion of the flats, and it'll go. I'm still waiting on my tubes. But one of the goals for today, besides some brake lines, because there's a lot of that to do, this is all just not even bench bled or anything, it's just sitting there. I need to adapt the steering column, which is this giant Ford square something. I'm going to chop a piece off the other intermediate shaft and weld an adapter to that. So I'll make my own, saving about $300 to be honest. So that's one of the goals. I should be able to get to that fairly easily. I'm going to do some brake lines first. Man, I can't wait to run this thing. It's going to be so cool. I did a couple quick items. The seat, I found it on Marketplace. It was not very expensive. It was cheaper to buy this seat than it was to buy foam and a cover for the other seat frame that I had. And then of course the carpet's just laying in there. But it starts, this crease, they had a box. It actually was a suspension part sitting on it. This will come out with a bit of heat. But yeah, I still have to do the dash pad, which I have. It's in the house. And obviously clean up everything, new door rubbers, thresholds. But it'll be really, really cool. You see I got my coupler on. That's cool. That thing. Yeah. And these fittings, which I just dropped all over the floor and had to get them. But anyway, it goes right there, so it lets you build your own power steering lines, which I still have to build my own power steering pump bracket, because the one that this engine came with is this giant plate, and I'm not doing that. So that's gonna happen here shortly. I wanna get the bed on, like I mentioned, so let me get these brake lines. This one brake line on the frame and the fuel line on the frame. Once I do that, I can put the bed on. I got everything cleaned up over there. Drop the bed down. I finished the tank. I didn't get you a shot of that, but next time I'm under there, I'll let you see how that came out. All the fittings, the wires, it's all together. Came out really good. I also have the fuel line. You see that roll and a brake line roll? That's all done in the back. I do have to secure it on the way up. But underneath the bed, where it's hard to get at, all that's done. So I'm pretty excited about that. This is half of the intermediate shaft off the 85. This, let me set that down. This one is the other half that slides in and out of this one. So the steering column is from the 85. And this Crown Vic rack is 03 to 11, and I got an adapter that has the Ford triangle on the bottom, and then it's double D, 3/4 double D, which is what this is. So all I really need to do is use part of this, like right here, I'll cut that off and make that like a coupling, and then I'll slide a chunk of the double D shaft that I have laying around. You slide some in there and then the other half in there and you weld it. So it'll be like a coupling. I'll use this sleeve as a coupling. That will take that and you'll be able to connect it. I left a little bit, there's my fingers, I left a little bit of collapsibility, just because. It's the way they designed them anyway. All right, let's see if they turn, shall we? I mean, I can't really see what's going on, but the wheels seem to be turning. What's all this squeaky business? I think it's in the rack, because the rack's dry. No, it could be in here. Let's spray that up with a little something. First, let's get a little in there. Because the rack's dry. There you go. That'll be much better once we get fluid inside of it. But I mean, that's it. It freaking steers. And it ain't going nowhere. It's all bolted in. Okay, I want to get it on jack stands, get the wheels off, get the transmission linkage connected, and then start working on the front brakes, front brake lines. I come out for a little bit today to get that linkage on. See if I can keep the light there and operate it for you. So let's see, where are we? That's park, reverse, neutral, drive, 1, 2. So it's in park. And then I don't know if you can see, on the side of the trans there's that other lever, a bar that goes up. It comes up here. What you have is your throttle pedal, which pulls the throttle. I gotta get a clip in there, but it pulls the throttle, and when the throttle is wide open, it depresses this shift lever. That one, I gotta put a clip on there. So when the throttle is wide open, it also moves this little lever, which is your vacuum secondaries. Your back barrels won't open until you're all the way in full throttle, and it pulls that rod down. So not only will it downshift, but it'll open. Hear that? It opens your back barrels, which means power. So anyway, there's a little clip missing here. I gotta get a clip on. There's a little clip here. I gotta put that clip on. And then you'll adjust this rod to make sure it's kicking down properly. But I also, because all this setup came out of that other truck, this pedal doesn't have a pedal stop. So basically you'll push your foot on it and you'll break this cable. You'll snap it right off. So I think I'm gonna do something either right here or down underneath the floor, but I don't really want to stare at it. I want nice new carpet, you know what I mean? So I gotta figure that out, but at least right now we have a throttle, kick down, we got linkage, brakes have been started, the fuel line's up here. I just gotta anchor everything, secure it, and I'm still waiting on my header parts. The tubing to make all those lovely bends. Reverse, neutral, drive, 2, 1. Got it. All right, smooth too. As far as you know, a few seconds ago it was nice outside. Well, now it is way below freezing, and it's been that way for a couple of days. We just got back from a trip, a little short family trip. The heat is not going off, so get used to the sound. I can't go an entire day without doing anything out here. So I came and did just at least this. So I got the alternator and the power steering pump, water pump pulley, crank pulley. So what I did was just use parts of both of them, meaning the power steering truck and the non-power steering truck, and I just adapted the brackets to work. So as you can see, like right there, I still have spacers to put in and a little bit longer bolts to get the belt alignment perfect. Well, perfect enough to work and not come off or burn belts. That's all I'm after. So at least I got a couple hours of sorting out hardware and pulleys. I had belts on the shelf that actually worked for power steering and for the alternator water pump. This one isn't in great shape, but it'll do for the test run, and if it breaks I can just throw it up on the counter somewhere and go, hey, match this belt, will you? That way I don't have to measure anything, which is great, because why do you think I have a whole entire bin full of extra belts? Because when you measure them, you think you know what you're doing, and sometimes, well, you just don't. Close but no cigar. Actually, I some of these came with vehicles and I just save them, and then other times I order them and they're not right. But you know, when I order them, I found this place online. I literally pay $4 or $5 per belt instead of 30 when you walk into a retail location. So I don't mind having spare belts. It worked out today. I have brake fluid all the way to the rear axle, but what I don't have, and the bleeders are clear. I cleared the bleeders. I have no flow through the wheel cylinders, which means it needs wheel cylinders. They're probably all corroded, like the bleeders were. I had to dig them all out. But I do have front brakes. So in theory, I could drive it. I'm not going to because I don't think anything is really tight. I have to paint these pulleys and put the cooling system and finish the fuel system, obviously. But I just spent the last couple hours getting the brakes dialed in so that I at least have front brakes. And now I know I need wheel cylinders, no big deal. I dug around in all the boxes and hoses. I had a bypass hose. Well, I made one out of something else. That actually says Mopar on it. And I basically made this bracket and these, which are gonna go to right there. Just to kind of keep with the flow of the way it looks. I got all that cleaned, obviously, and painted, because boy, it was a mess. I made my power steering lines. I got my low pressure, my high pressure. Go down in there to the rack. I still have to secure these brake lines. I have front brakes. No back brakes yet, but that's fine. I need that exhaust header out and the parts to be here. So what I'll do is take this steering shaft out, pull these out of the way, and then unbolt that. I should be able to bring it out, weld onto it, put it back in 100 times till I get them clear. Once I get them clear, I can put the whole front clip back on this thing, set it on the ground, and move it. So anyway, it took all day to do just that. I'm getting ready to take this off. I've got a new dash pad. They don't come in green anymore, but the black one will be just fine, and I'm not going to paint this. I'm just going to clean it. I think it's interesting because when you take these old trucks apart, you find things like this. This is a speaker spacer to fit a smaller speaker. So for whatever reason, someone couldn't get the speakers they wanted or whatever, and they took the time to make these. These are made by hand. They cut them out prior to the razor knife. And it makes you go, you know, people, at one time, people really cared about this truck. And I love finding that while I'm doing these things. And then it dawned on me, I was like, well, I guess at one time, someone cared about all of them. Every truck, when it was brand new, the person who bought it originally loved it. You know, when the guy got it second hand, third hand, whatever the story is, someone always cared about them. So I think it's cool that, you know, while they may end up stuck in a barn somewhere, when I find them, I care about them. And I think that's cool. I think they wrote a Smashing Pumpkins song about that, 1979. Ah, look at that. Wow. Fancy. Huh, I actually don't like it. I don't like the black over top of the green. I guess once the carpet's in and whatever, I ain't painting the dash. If I paint the dash black, then the only green in here is the door cards, and I gotta paint the door cards, and they're freaking filthy. No, we're not doing it. That stays. A little bit of cleanup. Get some sound deadening, some heat deadening on there. Dash pads in. I don't know what's growing on me. Yeah, it'll be all right. Ta-da! Better. Yeah, it'll be just fine. now that the dash pad is in, it's kind of growing on me. I like it. I think once I put the gauges in and get the room essentially finished, it'll look all right. I started wiring yesterday, and I'm using a different type of wiring harness that's good quality, lower cost. So far, the only issue I have with it is the printing on the wires is very difficult to see. But that's okay, I got some real high-powered readers right here. 2.50, that's a lot, 2.5 times magnification. If I use these, I can read it. And if you really need it, you know, you can stack these up. Did you know that? So not wear two at one time, just look through them. And now whatever you have on, plus what you have in your hand, whoa, man, I can see my bones. I'm going to use this cluster. It's the original cluster. It has obviously a fuel gauge, speedometer, odometer, temperature, and then it has what my dad used to call idiot lights, because by the time the oil light comes on, it's too late. The damage is done. It's an idiot light. Hey, idiot, too late. That's really what they are. You need a gauge so you can monitor the progress or condition of your engine. Anyways, like modern cars today, the whole thing is an idiot light. It tells you where to go, it tells you how to feel, it tells you what to buy. It's absolutely absurd. When the time comes that I'm forced to drive those vehicles, I'm gonna disconnect the speakers and spray paint the screen black. I'm not driving like that. So anyway, I digress. Back to this. These are all simple commands, and it's kind of like electronics, but it isn't really. It's just a flat brass circuit board, if you will. So I have these books for all these different harnesses that I've done, and I was like, man, I hope they got a Ford pinout telling you what each wire does. And as soon as I opened the page, there it was, cluster pinout, pigtail, cluster, tells you what each of these are. However, 75, 76, 77, and that's where the book stops. This is a 79. It has a different plug. There's 14, not 10. I gotta go look up on the internet and figure out what this is, so I don't have to individually voltage test, which I can do. I can absolutely put power and ground to these and go one at a time and see the lights light up and whatever. But it will save me a lot of time if I just know what they are. Then I can integrate them into the wiring harness that I have. I have 73 through 75, 14 pin, 1980, two different ones, one with a seatbelt warning and one without. I have one 76 through 79 with, look at that, they even call it idiot lights, idiot lamps. So anyway, this is my 14 plug pin, and you should be able to decipher, well, right away, pin number 1 on every single one of these. I don't have that. It gives you the color. This isn't right. Let me rephrase that. This doesn't match any of these, and this is the best I could come up with for the 14 pin. Most of these have 18 pins. So we are stuck somewhere based on where it was manufactured and what they were doing in that location at that time. So I have to go through and decipher all of these anyway. The first thing I want to know is which one is ground. I know the base of each bulb, because these are just bulbs. That's how we used to disable the check engine light back in the 80s. If you were like, oh man, I'm tired of looking at that light, you just go around the back of the dash and unplug the bulb. But so I know that the base is going to be ground, but on this it looks like one of these is ground and one of those is power. So I have to find which one on this is ground, and I'm gonna bet that's a good indication right there. But you need to know which one's power and which one's ground first. We got a red and a black here. This is a weird black. It's got a solid core with a rubber coating on it. I think this is temperature, but first things first, I gotta get some test leads hooked up to this battery, and then I'll see if I can get magical things to occur, and I can mark them. which I will. I'll use this scrap paper and write on the back of it, and it'll tell me what's what. But this is gonna take a minute. I'm not gonna make you watch the whole darn thing. I have figured out which one is main power, which one is main ground, and I've got a couple of the other ones worked out. Obviously that's your seatbelt light, which I'm never going to use that anyway. And then this should be a turn signal. Blink, blink. Okay, this should be my other one. Blink, blink. There you go. Okay, so we got those worked out. There's your brake light. Better. Little spots there I gotta clean up. Touch them up with black tomorrow when this all dries, but I mean, that's better than 150 bucks. Let's not forget that. I know it's a little sloppy, don't worry, I'll clean it up here and there and touch it up, it'll be good. Once the truck's put together, you won't ever see it. What's that buddy of mine say? Man on a fast horse will never see it. That's right, if you're going fast enough, you ain't gonna notice. As usual, long way to go, but some things have been finished. I mean, I don't know about finished, but you know, way better, or as we say in Hillbillyville, way more gooder. I know it doesn't make sense, but so yeah, I mean, you know, from where it was to where it is, this is going to be a lot better. Every time you see one of these trucks, they all look like long beds in the pictures, you know. Like right now, that looks like a long bed, but believe me, that's a short bed. You can always tell the distance between like there and there. On a long bed, it's much longer. Because everyone always takes the pictures to look like, oh, it's a short bed. But they never take them like this. Anyway, I test fit that fender. It was red. I had to do something. I couldn't leave it that way. This thing's going to be fantastic. I even test fit the radiator, or as they say in Pennsylvania, radiator. Yeah, it's going to be great. Not too bad, all in all. There's the repair panel. I'm going to use pieces of both and make one good side, but there's so much dust that I can't leave this camera in here, so I'll be back in a couple hours, or for you, just a few moments. I was very busy yesterday with the tool that makes this step in metal, like that. A little bit of filler, and obviously welding. I am going to have to show you in pictures real quick how I did this, because it was so dusty and dirty that I had to keep the camera out of the room, and the doors were open and it took all darn day. But I mean, not really, but that's just the first skim coat. The metal is replaced, and I'll show you real quick how I did it.
I got it all cleaned up and I measured out the panel and kind of gave it this exact shape of the piece that I cut out. I then clamped them together, I scribed a mark, and I made that new piece same size as the old one. I use this little step tool that puts like a indent, almost a crease, so that you can weld and then later fill it with body filler. It actually comes out really good and you have a bit of a deficit to fill rather than overlapping them.
That is a good start. We've been over that. I have all of the dash cluster worked out and all of the labels made. So really I can start connecting that plug to that bundle of wires, which is what I'm gonna do, I guess. It's raining and dark. It's been dark all day. It's tough to get motivated when it looks like it's 7 o'clock at night and it's only 2. It's nonsense. Winter's crap. With a bit of testing and a bit of patience, I made everything worse. I'm just kidding. It only has front brakes. So when I do get the exhaust pieces welded on, I can put the radiator in it, fill it up with coolant, let it reach temperature, and pull it out. I decided to put everything together mocked up so that I could kind of get a sense of what it's going to look like and how it's all going to plumb in. I mean, I dig the grill. I think it looks cool. I'm trying to use this. It's the washer bottle and also the overflow for the radiator. It's out of the 85. I don't know that it's going to fit there, and it definitely won't fit down there because it'll melt. But I have the water lines plumbed in, the coolant lines. This is just a plug actually because it's below the cap. This is part of the old system out of the other truck, which is gone. But overall, I think it's coming out really well. I would love to get the damn exhaust done so I can let it reach temperature and start final assembly, because the clock is ticking on this one, let me tell you. I don't have much time to get it finished. As a matter of fact, today I think is the last day. 1 or 2 more days and the Dodge is coming in, so stick around, you're going to want to see that. We're going to start putting a Hemi into the 52 Dodge. Bunch of the old truck, including that. I was going to keep it, but it's so filthy that it doesn't matter. Plus, that's starting to look like something. And I got a replacement decal for that because I liked it. And it was only like 10 bucks. So I moved everything over to this side because I was going to put this truck away and get started on the Dodge. But this header that I've been waiting for the fittings fittings finally arrived, and I know I didn't do a whole lot of filming. I have already moved one of the tubes, and now that clears the steering, and I'm now moving the other one, which, to be honest with you, I'm so excited. I just want to get this engine up to temperature because guess what? It will move under its own power. It's not doing anyway. It's not doing anything. It's not even moving. Huh? We got steering. It clears the steering and it clears the engine. Looks like it hits a little, but I think I can get a long bar and put a tiny dent in that just so it doesn't, if the motor flexes, it could knock on it and sound scary, so I'll probably just dent it. There's not a lot of clearance there, but I mean, I'm not horribly upset by all of that. All the bolts are tight, everything's put back in, steering's in, everything clears now. Header is 4 tubes into one, basically open headers. I can put fuel in the carburetor and start it from inside, which is what I'm gonna do right now. And if it doesn't sound like a bag of bricks, I'm going to fill the tank with fuel in the morning, and I'm pulling this out under its own power with open headers. I gotta get some fuel and put it down the vents. As long as it sounds good, I'll put fuel in the tank tomorrow, and then also put the radiator in and fill it with coolant and let this thing run. Let it finally come back to life. Oh, let me tell you, welding it was the easy part. Getting it to fit in and get all the bolts started on the Chinesium, that was difficult. I should be able to leave it run a little bit. It's even got an accelerator pedal. Something is tragically wrong with the power steering. I might have it backwards. The lines might be backwards. Because that shouldn't have happened. For right now, I should take this belt off so I don't have to deal with that. Alright, it's way too cold to have the doors open, and what I think is happening is, I think there was just air in the rack, so that when I first started it, it moved fluid and just, took over. You gotta bleed those out with the wheels in the air back and forth, and there are some bubbles in here, so I unhooked the belt, that's fine, that doesn't matter for right now. Seems like I have the carburetor, it's working. It's not pulling fuel from the tank yet, it's just from the bowls that I filled up, which I'll take care of that tomorrow. The other thing is the brakes. When I touch the brakes, it goes to the floor and there's no pedal. And only when the vacuum is on. So what I think is happening is I'm letting all the vacuum out and it can't recover because I have this rubber boot off in there, and I'll deal with that tomorrow. So power steering and brakes, deal with that. Get it to pull fuel from the tank. It's late enough. I have to go buy fuel. I'm not doing that today. I'll get it to pull fuel from the tank, make sure the steering is bled, make sure I have actual brakes, and then I'll fill it up with antifreeze and actually let it run. But, you know, this is part of the deal when you build something out of 3-4 different trucks. You got to make everything work. And thank God the ignition and the carburetor are good, and the motor sounds good. So the rest of it, you know, little bits at a time. Let me go in, do anything but this, and I'll be right back. I got the exhaust buttoned up. I got it pulling fuel from the tank. I put the power steering back on, and belt's a little loose. Deal with that in a minute. The next step is going to be getting it up to temperature, but I got to put water in it first. And I'm going to try water, even though it's right about freezing outside, but in here it's not bad. So in theory, right now it should just start on the key, and I should have power steering. Not everything always goes as planned, and as usual, it didn't go as planned. Power steering is great. The engine seems to run great. Everything is connected. My power brake booster, it's a Chinese piece of crap, and I probably overextended it at one point, messing with the linkage. I don't know, but it's junk. I need a new one. Simple change. It's just some bolts and linkage. The other thing is, the alternator is not charging, and I think I have one of the wires not powered that needs to be powered, but I don't have time to look at that right now. Because another thing occurred. The carburetor, the floats began to stick, the needles and seats, from sitting dry, from being a 1985, you know, it says remanufactured on the carburetor in 2005, but whatever. Once you let it run, the carbs, the carb 2 float bowls will overfill and start to pour fuel out on the vent, washing the lovely paint off my engine. I don't much care about that. The problem is I took it apart and I cleaned it, and it seemed to be working, and if you flip it upside down you can't blow through it, but fuel is still seeping through. I put it on and now the gasket's leaked. So, do I buy a brand new carburetor? Sure, $500+ and relinkage everything, cable, kickdown lever, all that has to be readapted. I'm gonna order $38 float seats and gaskets, and I'm gonna see if I can fix that, because I just hate it when something goes wrong and it's $500, you know? Yeah. All right. This thing, I'm taking everything in the garage, piling it on top of it, and it's got to sit. I have no more time for this right now. I have this Dodge project that's been sitting patiently. I'm bringing it in and taking the engine out of it right now. Let's go. I'm really excited to get started on something else. When you get stuck in on a project like this one, and it's been a couple of months, you start to feel worn down, you know, and you need to just separate yourself from it for a minute. And just the fact that I cleared everything out of the way and I'm getting ready to pull in the Durango to harvest the Hemi engine and 5-speed automatic, just the fact that I'm pulling that in, I feel better already. It's crazy how reactive. Well, that, and it's not terrible outside. It's right hovering at freezing, so it's not too bad. But yeah, I'm excited to get going on something else. Interesting thing on this 2-wheel drive Hemi powered Durango, look at that transmission. It's brand new. I'm pretty happy about that. You know, if I turn the radio off, things are getting serious. These tranny lines, I should have taken them off, but I did not. We end up using parts of it, not all of it, otherwise I would have taken it off. Yeah, okay. Well, that's mostly free. So I now have to open the door and push this truck back, kind of out, because obviously this doesn't move. Okay, give me a minute, it'll be on the ground and it'll be tomorrow. Ta-da! I got it out last night, and of course it made a big mess, but I dragged the Durango outside. I actually have to move that around back because that's a two-wheel drive Hemi Durango chassis that is very rare up here. Everything up here is four-wheel drive, but if you wanted to build, say, like one of the international harvester pickup trucks and put a body on that, like I've done 30 times now, that would be a great two-wheel drive tire spinning hot rod. I know there's lots of guys in the Midwest, they want two-wheel drive because it's only going out in the summer anyway as a hot rod. So that chassis has value. I don't know how much because there's no motor trans, ECU, motor harness. That's kind of the money. But yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm gonna get this on the engine hoist, get everything parked. We're gonna take this down. I have a quick favor to do for my nephew. We're gonna do the dashboard out of his 2014 Ram because he has no heat. He has had almost no heat in that truck up here in the north for like 3 years. He took it to the dealership and the dealer wanted $3,200 to change a heater core and a blower motor. It sounds crazy, but the reason that it's so much money is that it's a dash out job. The unit that houses that is this big, and it is really difficult to get to. You have to take the dash 100% apart. And I'm not even sure we can get that whole unit out without depleting its air conditioning. It's a big deal. But the good thing is, I ain't scared, and I'm gonna get it done either way, even if I have to make an access port, pull it out this way, and then repair the access. I don't know what I gotta do yet, but that's happening. So let me get this cleaned up, give me a second, and Al should be here. 2014 Ram. Of course it's got the Hemi engine in it. It has no heat. And he's been dealing with this for a couple of years, and I know we changed the thermostat, which is in there. We changed that thermostat last year, I think, or the year before. He took it to the dealer and they said $3,500, and I said, no, bring it here. So what we're doing first is I'm gonna check to make sure the heater core itself is not plugged. We have a fan blower in there that works, and the blend doors that shift it from floor to dash to windshield defrost all work. So because we're that far, I clamped these lines off here, coming out of the water pump and out of the heater core, which go right up under there. These will probably leak some, but I'm gonna cut them. I'm gonna put in a loop. I'm gonna tie these two back together so they don't leak while I'm doing what I'm doing. And then these two lines, I'll release one into a bucket and connect the hose to it. Then I'll release the other one and put pressurized air or water in it and blow through it. And when it blows through, it should blow out any debris. And if nothing comes out but clean, fresh antifreeze, that ain't the problem. And then we'll be inside the truck disassembling it. It could be a blend door, the temperature blend door. I'm not 100% sure, but we bought a bunch of parts, preparing for the worst, and I'm hoping to get off easy. So the first step is cutting those lines and blowing through that heater core. So give me 1 second and we'll see how that went. So that went on all day. We flushed out the heater core, and there was some partial blockage in there, but it doesn't leak and it does flow coolant just fine. The blower motor is totally fine. So what we did was check the blend door actuators, and they work sometimes and sometimes they don't. So we individually tested the motors we could reach. 2 we could reach, 2 we couldn't. And if you power them, they open and close, and the doors are free. So it's the controller. So the dealer, the Chrysler dealer, Dodge dealer, Ram, whatever you want to call it today, misdiagnosed his truck to the tune of $300 plus a rental car for 4 or 5 days while they hooked it up to the machine, which means nobody did a damn thing. They wanted to charge him $3,200 for it. So all they ended up doing was getting a $300 diagnostic fee and then the rental car. But he's going back there because now he has heat. I've opened his blend door manually. Coolant is flowing through, but his controllers still have the fresh air door open, so it's not good heat, but at least we now know what the problem is. They didn't do a damn thing. That's typical today, and at $250 an hour, they can kiss my butt. Be glad you don't have to pay someone that. I'm glad I could help him. The controller, it's coming in the mail. It's like 200 and some bucks. He's gonna put it on. It's a few screws. He already knows how to do it, so his truck will be fine. Right now, I need to get this Dodge in here so I can start pulling the front off and getting a suspension and material list for making that Hemi engine run in that 50s Dodge. I guess if you don't mind winter, you don't mind a little of this stuff. By morning, that'll all be a puddle on the floor. It's pretty cold outside, but this will all just be, it'll just be gone in the morning because the heat's on in here. I keep it not real warm because it's expensive, but this thing is so solid. The interior's a mess. They use some sort of fiberglass. I don't even know what that is, but that's coming off. I tore the big chunks off already. That's the drive shaft we're gonna end up using. These are all Hemi parts that I put in there. Those wheels don't go to this, they're scrap. But the first thing I'm gonna do is pull the body off of it, or at least the front clip. I'm gonna get the front bumper, front clip, and expose the engine and front suspension, because all of that needs to go to get that in there, that awesome Hemi and 5RFRE, something like that, that Chrysler 2-wheel drive transmission. I forget the call letters on it, but it's something like that. I know it's an electronic 5-speed that's just fantastic. Those engines are great. I was just driving that 14 Ram the other day, same engine as that, but the 14 has cylinder management where this one does not, which I prefer this, although the other heads flow more air, and there's something to be said about that. But again, this truck is going to get that power, and then we're going to make those wheels do smoky things. One moment, please. I'm not going to be able to get to this today because it's like Christmas Eve or something, and of course I have almost none of it ready. I gotta sweep the dog hair out of the back of my truck and go get a few last minute items before the world shuts down for 2 days. So it's holidays. Merry Christmas. Hang on a second. Okay, Christmas is behind us, and this carburetor had been giving me fits. You know, I'm thinking about it, and I wake up in the morning, I go, oh, did I set the float level? No, I didn't. That could have been one reason after I cleaned this carb out for this 79 Ford over here, that the float bowls were allowing too much fuel in, and that could have been it. So I know I walked away from it for a couple of days, and the holidays are not all the way over. So I came out, grabbed a few minutes. I'm gonna see if I can set these float levels. And what I did was I went and downloaded the disassembly and cleaning instructions, and it tells you specifically how to do the float level, which I did not do. And some of these gaskets are old, and I'm gonna just gently, I know it's like a last ditch effort. If this doesn't work, it's just gonna make a mess, and I'll have to clean them out, rebuild them anyway. But honestly, I would rather exchange this. I can send this off and they'll send me one already rebuilt for like $275. That's good because a reproduction Holly of this is like 600 bucks. So if I have to do it, I will. This is my last ditch effort to set this float. Fuel comes in, it's just like they call it a cistern in England, but it's just like a toilet tank, you know what I mean? As it comes in, the float rises and shuts the water off. Fuel, same. So that's what I've done on this one. I've set it according to the instructions. Now I gotta put this back on, flip it over, do the other one, and then I can put it back on the truck, fill it with fuel, start the truck, and see if it loads and leaks. And if it does neither, that can be driven, which means that changes my plan for the next day or two. Okay, I put the carb on, I ran the truck. It lasted a lot longer this time before it started to overflow and come out of the vents. So it needs needles and seats. It also leaks out of the bottom of the accelerator pump. So it needs needle seats, bowl gaskets, and an accelerator pump gasket. But the good thing is now I can kind of leave the heat off out here if I'm not going to be here for a couple of days, because the antifreeze in the radiator has circulated into the engine. But unfortunately, this carb is not happening, so it needs more parts. I'm too cheap to buy a brand new one because that's too much money. So let me get back on that thing. Our weather up here is like put together by a drunken sailor. One day it's 13 degrees outside, the next day it's 50. So I'm not complaining because the sun is out and it's not raining. But that truck rains fuel and we're not messing with that today. This front end, this whole front end needs to come down. I'm gonna get on that right now. It looks easier just to do this so I can see what's going on. Then I don't cut anything. And I sure as hell don't want to lay underneath this thing. Ugh. Not anyway. Not anytime soon. Once I pressure wash it all and get rid of all the wildlife, then I ain't too worried about it. But right now it's just gross. Ugh. Woodworking 101. All right, well, I mean, it's a mess, but it's not. I've seen way worse. The metal's all solid. This truck is really solid. The wood, not so much. Floors are in good shape. It's a little bit of perforation there. I think these doors would be fine if you just painted them, really. But we got to get it running first. And I was looking at getting this engine to fire up, do a video of it. Someone might need it. I mean, that's a 12-volt single-wire alternator. That could be used on anything. But my main concern is that wire right there. Look at that wire. That's a hot, and I'm not firing this up because I don't want to risk it catching on fire or melting further. I'm just going to cut all the wires and carefully disassemble it. We'll get back to this a little later. I've got a buddy who's got that exact same carb, and I might get away with not rebuilding that one. But again, that's just me being cheap. Don't worry about this for right now. We'll get back to it in a minute. We're on to this, and that front clip's got to come off. You gotta love the unseasonably warm days. It's like 60 degrees. People are on motorcycles out there, which is where I should be, out on my motorcycle, getting ready. Well, so it's not that heavy, but it does look like a two-person job. Got another person? Because I do not. I don't want to dent it all up, so technically I need some help. Hello! Yeah. The guy shooting a gun 5 miles away. Think he'll help me? Anyway, time to set up the crane, I guess.
Unfortunately, I had my lovely assistant and our lovely daughter came out and helped me lift it over the tires. I want to try and get it on here if I can. Let me see what this feels like. I wouldn't go in there just yet. Because if it starts to fold, I don't want to do it. You should be able to slide
that.
You just slide it on the, kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
It's help balance. Okay, you good? Go towards the camera. Just balance it. Let me shut the camera off and we'll get it into place. Okay.
You leaving it on there?
I mean, I feel like I should anchor it to something. I drink too many beers and go, whoa, and then I'm tangled up out here and you gotta save me.
Well, how about you don't do that?
Okay. So take the front clip off while I drink beer.
Yeah, no.
Thanks.
Welcome.
There we go. That'll do for now. In the morning, I'll take the front clip off. I will lay that down and put it on rollers. I had a pleasantly warm day yesterday, and it's not too cold today, but the floor's damp, and I'm trying to dry everything out, but I don't know if you can see that in there. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 bolts per side. That's 26 bolts. That's just to get the back half undone. The front, believe it or not, only has 2. Holding the front clip down onto the radiator support. So with every one I can unscrew. They are fine thread, SAE, by the way, so 1/2 inch, 7/16, 9/16, and they're fine thread, which means the thread per inch is massive, so it takes 1,000,000 turns to get them off. Every one that I can unscrew is one less that I have to cut with the grinder, and when you're laying on your back, cutting with the grinder is a pain. So this one, we're going to be working to get this front clip off, but enough of the dilly-dallying. Hang on 1 second and we'll see what happens. The hardest part of any job often is getting started, because I lamented over this for a few hours last night and then again this morning. I came out here, took the wheels off, and then I complained because, I don't know, I complain a lot. As it turns out, I only had to do, I don't know, six or 8 of them. And this side is loose. So I gotta go to the other side. I had to grind 1 bolt. The rest of them either broke or came out. I have to go to the other side and do the same thing. And then there's only 2 mounts on the front. And I can rig up the cherry picker and take this whole front end, except the bumper. The bumper will stay on the frame. And I can lift this and it will go away. And I can start pulling the engine. But yeah, it's messy. Everything you do, you have to lean out because there's so much debris that falls. Let me see if I can get the other side, and then I'll rig everything up. I got to move all this stuff to get the cherry picker in there, but I know I can get this off. I would love to have this off and outside today. Look at me. I'm getting ambitious because I got lucky on a few bolts. The song remains the same on this side, I'll tell you. Led Zeppelin reference. With each one you unscrew, it's one less you gotta cut. This one was a little tougher. I'd say it's just under 2 hours from when I started, but I don't know if you can see, there's 2 bolts on there and there, those 2. That's pretty much all that's holding this whole front end on at this point. So I'm gonna take these off because I don't want to damage those. Those are great, they're going back on, love them. I'm gonna make them work if possible. Heck, they might already work, I don't know. But yeah, I want to leave that face exactly as it is. It's fantastic. So if I get those 2 big bolts off and rig something up around here to lift,
I should be able to haul it out. That'd be cool. All right, let me get going. I got the two off. There's a bunch of wires connected that it's getting scrapped anyway. This is heavy. I mean, it ain't, two guys could easily pick this up. Again, how many guys am I? But 2/3. I'm gonna rig up the engine hoist, but I first gotta put that Hemi engine on stands so I can use the engine hoist. The bed needs to go outside. The quad needs to go over there. But I'm confident this will be off and I can start pulling the motor. Not sure what, I don't know what's gonna happen when I get free of the truck. Is it gonna flip over? Or am I gonna, I don't wanna dent the panels. Every panel I dent, I gotta fix. I think we'll be all right. Oh yeah. There you go. That ain't bad, is it? We ain't there yet, but well, I'll be darned. So 2/3 of a guy. Turns out that's enough, huh? All right, I want to get this put away. I want that bed outside. Hang on one second, we'll get to this engine. Look at that odd pivot. I mean, I guess it works for a shackle, huh? It must work. That's how it was designed. We have to cut all those rivets off though, because we're going to put Ford Ranger suspension underneath this thing. It fits virtually exact, but it'll be modern with modern brakes and modern brake lines and a proper drive shaft. And we're going to change the steering column because that's never going to work. The brakes, unfortunately, the pedal is going to have to go, well, let me not say that for sure yet. I was going to say the brakes have to go underneath the frame like they were and like they are on these older trucks, but that's only because you usually don't have room here for a pedal box. But I'm not 100% sure that's true. So let me just get to that when I get it, but the motor's got to go in next. This is a giant boat anchor. It weighs as much as a small house. This is a giant mess that I like to leave myself. I've got to clean up this frame. I got to get all this stuff trimmed off, some of that nonsense trimmed off, make some room. That corner brace, that's got to come out. I got to box this frame later, but first I'm going to clean it all out and offer that engine up, see how it fits. Has that thing got a Hemi in it? Not yet. Slowly. Like James May on a racetrack. These are the days of our lives. Okay. There's going to be some swearing and some pounding. So I'm going to turn the camera off, but what I need to do is get a transmission jack under the back of here and take this strap off so I can get down in there. Well, what is it? Christmas or New Year's? It's actually New Year's Eve, but it feels like Christmas, because check that out. That actually fits in there way better than I thought it was gonna. And I know some people will complain and say this early generation doesn't have the eagle heads and it doesn't produce as much power, but it also doesn't have cylinder management, which is total garbage, by the way. So you end up taking the engine apart anyways, doing a cam and lifters and a program, where this is plug and play and it makes 350 horse all day long, nothing to worry about. Completely reliable, these early ones. And for this light of a vehicle, this thing's gonna shred the tires. Now we just gotta do something about steering, suspension, wiring, and brakes. So I'm pretty happy. It's like middle of the day, New Year's Eve. I'm going to get beer and I gotta actually do some paperwork, so the beer will be later, but still. All right, I'm out. Like I always say, with the magic of the internet, everything is just automatically cleaned up and put away. And look, I set that engine on there just so it can stay out of my way. And this, of course, is sitting in here. It fits so good. I'm super happy about that. I've got it secured into position so I can roll this back and forth when I need to. This thing, I have a carburetor on order, and it needs to get wired and the exhaust put on it. And to be honest, I'm not even 100% sure of what's next. I'm just getting this one set aside so I can get back into this one, which is what I'm doing today. On New Year's Day, actually. That's fine. The interesting thing about this build is that normally when I take one of these 50s trucks, I basically just pull the body off, throw all the old stuff away, and hollow out the body and drop it down over a running, driving chassis. It's actually really, really easy, and then you can finish it based on your skill level and your budget and time constraints and all of that. This is different because we're keeping the original frame, but we're changing suspension on both ends, and also the power plant, which means steering and brakes, and every piece has to be fabricated and made to fit this. And I think that's cool because this is challenging. This is, my nephew always makes fun of me. He goes, if you're not solving a puzzle, you're upset, you're pissed off. And I'm like, well, I never really looked at it that way, but yeah, if I'm bored, if something is simple, it dulls me. It's like music. You know, if music is predictable and repeatable over and over, it's like, duh, I instantly tune out. You know, it has to be surprising and it has to be complex, and, you know, it needs to hold your attention and your focus. Music, cars, it's all kind of the same thing, and it all comes down to what you love. And there's a lot here, but it's going to be slick. This thing's going to be so cool. Well, I said I wasn't going to do anything today, but that didn't last long. It's either sit around and talk about nonsense with the women or put exhaust on this thing. And these are mufflers. They look used. They're not. They sat around in a garage for probably 10 years. They're a good imitation Flowmaster. They're going to sound really, really good on this. And I'm starting to lay out the first couple of cuts. I'm going to use 2 clamps to clamp the collectors to the headers, and then I'll have a short piece of pipe and then a muffler, and whatever I have left will get me, it's not going to get me out the back, but hopefully it will get me in front of the rear tires. But wherever it ends up, that's it. That's as far as it needs to go. I don't care if it's loud, it's going to be cool. And it's already low. So low, loud, and lean, it probably won't be too fast, but that's fine. It's cool. Let me get underneath there. I got to set up this other camera. Gosh darn it. Remind me to fire my assistant. That camera's not charged. So I was going to film from underneath, but never mind. Hang on a second. I mean, it's just pipe, right? Dump out some debris. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with the GoPro, so I'll just take you under here this way. So, there's the exhaust. One is turned a little more than the other, and there's a wood block in there that's temporary until I make hangers. That's because where it came out, I didn't want it to have the potential to rub the drive shaft, but they basically go right in. So put some hangers and clean it up. It should be good. I'm going to start it right now. Let's fire it up, knowing that it needs a carburetor still. But that shouldn't matter, honestly, for what we're doing right now. should be good enough. Make sure it's in park, which I connected the neutral safety, so it shouldn't do anything stupid. I know it doesn't sound like it needs a carb, but it does. If you leave it run, fuel just starts dumping in on top of the bowls and then chokes it out. And I don't want to foul the plugs because they're new. I know it happens. At least it's not a fire hazard. I'm super pumped. That thing sounds awesome. And I think that's where we're going to have to leave it for this episode, folks. Always remember, like, subscribe, share, comment. That all helps. Go back, check out some of the other videos. Thanks. I'll see you soon.